be throughout eternity. And so the Lord led me to Revelation chapter 12. And this is one of those chapters most people just tend to overlook, because as the churches interpret it, the churches interpret that this whole book just refers to the fact that Israel out of Israel comes the Messiah, and then it highlights Satan's attack of the church during the 12-year or 7-year tribulation period. But I found nuggets in this chapter, nuggets that would have otherwise been overlooked when the Lord took me there. And so I'm just going to go through it and translate it the way it should be read. Once you start doing the word study in Strong's, and you can go to blueletterbible.com. It's an online Bible study source. Go there all the time and do strong searches on words and terms. So I'm just going to read through this chapter and go verse by verse. If you have a Bible, you could open it to Revelation chapter 12 and follow along. If you don't, you can go to blueletterbible.com, and in the right-hand corner where it says search, you can do a Rev 12, and click go, and the whole Revelation chapter 12 will come up online, so you can just sit there and read it and follow along. In verse 1 it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman, clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars." This woman, according to Strong's, is a bride. It's a female. And the 12 stars are symbolic for the 12 tribes of Israel, as in Joseph's dream of Genesis 37:9. Joseph had the dream where the stars and the sun and moon and stars were doing obeisance to him, 11 stars. And the church interprets this woman as Israel, but this woman is not Israel. This woman is the bride, who also includes Israel, because the crown of 12 stars that she is wearing represents the 12 tribes of Israel. And so I think there's always going to be a distinction between the bride and the 12 tribes. The bride encompasses everybody, but you also have different distinctions within the bride. Within the bride you have the 12 tribes of Israel, and you have the two groups of 144,000. There's distinctions, different groups within the general term bride. Okay? In verse 2, "And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered." If you look at the word pained in Strong's, it was taken from the word to represent tortured, harassed, tormented, to vex with grievous pains of body or mind, to torment, and then to be delivered, basically meaning to bring forth fruit, produce fruit from the seed. It's a metaphor to bear or bring forth fruit. In verse 3, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads." This is a future instance. This is not one in the past as taught by the churches today. Yes, it does represent Satan, but more specifically it represents the first beast of Revelation chapter 13. This beast here in verse 3 and the first beast of Revelation chapter 13 are identical. And it's the first beast of Revelation chapter 13 who is identified as the Antichrist, the coming Antichrist. So this puts chapter 12, this entire chapter 12, as a future significance, instead of just some overall general summary of how Israel gave birth to the Messiah. It's a future significance. It's not just a past thing, sweep it under the rug, ignore it, go on to the next chapter thing. Because if you look at chapter 2, you get a really good look at the first group of 144,000, which is being tortured, harassed, tormented, vexed with grievous pains of body and mind, and tormented. And if you look at to be delivered, because they're bringing forth fruit, they're producing seed, they're the ones who are getting ready for Satan's arrival, and they're bringing forth fruit for the Lord. I find it often funny that in the Bible codes, orgone, a term for orgone is cone fruit. And if you've seen the pieces that we make, we put them in cones. And so just to see that in the codes is hysterical. Because I never thought of it, cone fruit. And you look at here, in this whole Revelation chapter 12 war is about Satan coming after this group of 144,000 because they are producing fruit that can destroy him. And then when you look at the words, the verses of chapter 12, it all starts to make sense, much significance for today. In verse 4, and his tail, talking about Satan here, drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and had cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And this whole chapter, verses 4 and 5, have dual meanings. It shows you the war at the time that Jesus was born and then caught up to heaven. At the same time, it's also referring to a particular group, a particular seed within the bride that Satan is also coming after to attack. In the first part of verse 4, and the Lord had me in verses 4 and 5 for a long time, the stars, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Stars are often symbolic and figurative for the word angels. In this case, Satan's angels, we refer to as them as aliens. And he cast them to the earth. So Satan is casting a third of his angels to the earth. This isn't referring to his past rebellion, when he caused a third to rebel against the Most High. This is the here and now, where Satan is casting a third of his angels to the earth. And you're going to find out why. And they're here. They're already here, about a third of them. And he cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman which was ready, and this is to be on the point of doing or suffering something, to intend, to have in mind, to think to do. The bride is doing something. This woman, her offspring, her child, is on the brink of doing something, getting ready to do something. They're getting ready to be delivered, to bring forth fruit. And Satan wants to devour this offspring as soon as it's ready to bring forth this fruit. And so he's standing at the woman. He's got a third of his aliens down here. And those of you involved with this whole Oregon war, you know the harassment involved. I don't have to tell anybody about that. But this is what they're doing. They're trying to devour this woman, this bride's offspring, a specific offspring, the seed of the offspring, this 144,000, because they're bringing forth their fruits. The term child here refers to a metaphor for children of God, but it's also in an affectionate address, such as patrons, helpers, teachers, and the like. I believe it's regarding to his helpers, in specific his warriors, the first group of 144,000. Because as more and more and more of you are waking up, the fruit we are producing to harm Satan's kingdom has caused a lot of his war against us. It's causing him to retaliate. And this tells us what we're dealing with, folks. About a third of his angels are also here on earth trying to stop us, trying to retaliate against us, to stop us. But he doesn't get anywhere. In verse 5, and she brought forth to bring forth a man-child. And it's going back, it's talking about the woman, the bride, this bride. The term child here, number 5207 in the Strong's, refers to offspring of men, the son of man. Also refers to sons of Abraham, the children of Israel, the son of God. Used to describe those who are born again. Who was to rule, nourish, feed, tend, flock, keep sheep, furnish pasture for food, to rule, govern, to serve the body, to supply the requisites for the soul's needs. This 144,000 standing up and revealing the truth of the Lord's word, to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her and child, which is 5043, a different term of child, which means offspring, the children of God, patrons, warriors,